This is his cup. Every day, like clockwork, he wakes up at 6 a.m., knowing for sure that the sun will shine. Today, his car is all decked out in his jogging gear. He's made up his mind that today is the day he will finally conquer that New Year's resolution he's been dragging along for, well, too many years to count. But then, it rained.
Don't wanna be all by myself anymore.
Is the systematic search for uniformities in the way things behave. It can be explained either through laws, theories, or hypotheses. When we hear the word law, we often think of the laws which are enacted by a legislative body and have the power to impose the do's and the don'ts to the people. These are called prescriptive laws. But there is another type of law, the descriptive laws or the laws of nature. Simply put, describes how nature works. For example, the planets revolve around the sun. That's the law of planetary motion according to Johannes Kepler. It's not as if Kepler demanded the planets to move in such a way or else the police will get them. When there's a law, there is a lawmaker. This applies to prescriptive law. If a course of action is prescribed, of course someone must have prescribed it. Descriptive laws, on the other hand, may have been designed by God. Laws are discovered and not made. This applies only to descriptive laws because we only discovered them, but the process of formulation is the work of humans.
John Hospers, an American philosopher and author known for his work in the field of philosophy, discussed the following features that are usually counted as definitions of laws of nature. A law of nature is a universal statement. A law of nature must be open-ended. It must have an unlimited range in time and space. Natural laws must be expressible as hypothetical statements. The greater the generality of a statement, the more likely it is to be accorded the status of a law of nature.
I thought, look, here's an opportunity. I remember what Rand says, the world of ideas is the only one in the end that counts in this world. And if you don't give them good ideas, other people are going to give that same audience bad ideas.
Here's what John Hospers has to say about the laws of nature. All iron rusts when exposed to oxygen. All copper conducts electricity. All wounds lead to scars. Even a wounded heart.
Tennis is governed by two sets of laws. One set is man-made, the rules of the game. They govern things such as the size of the court, the height of the net, and what determines if a shot is in or if a shot is out. These rules could conceivably be changed if the governing body of tennis so desired. But the other set of laws that apply to the game are fixed, immutable. They govern what happens to the ball when it is hit. The force and angle of the racket strike determines exactly what happens next. The laws of nature are a description of how things actually work in the past, present, and future. In tennis, the ball always goes exactly where they say it will. And there are many other laws at work here too. They govern everything that is going on, from how the energy of the shot is produced in the player's muscles, to the speed at which the grass grows beneath their feet. But what's really important is that these physical laws, as well as being unchangeable, are universal. They apply not just to the flight of a ball, but to the motion of a planet and everything else in the universe. Unlike laws made by humans, the laws of nature cannot ever be broken. That's why they are so powerful, and when seen from a religious standpoint, controversial too.
Facts are really just observations about the world around us, and we observe things every day, like that it's bright outside when I look out the window. And we often develop explanations for those observations, like, okay, the sun is probably up. Congrats, we just developed a hypothesis. But a hypothesis isn't something you prove, it's something you test. So, let's walk outside. It's bright, the sun is up, hypothesis confirmed. Way to go, we did a science. We often come up with multiple hypotheses to explain an observation. We just eliminate the ones that are wrong. What's left over is not a theory or a law or an ultimate truth. It's just a possible explanation for something, one that can lead us to new hypotheses, which may agree or disagree with the original one. It's a never-ending story. When enough hypotheses have gotten the old scientific check mark, we can pile these all up and turn them into something greater, a theory.
Well, a theory is more than just a casual idea. It's a structured, comprehensive explanation that seeks to make sense of natural phenomena. While it may remain unproven, it's still the cornerstone upon which scientific knowledge is built, acting as both a beacon and a compass in our quest for knowledge.
Now, to see if you got this down, let's look at some examples. Fact, people get sick. I think we can all accept that. Hypothesis, people get sick because something gets in their body and starts doing bad things. Test each hypothesis, throw out the bad ones, and we're left with a framework that lets us understand why we get sick and make predictions. The germ theory of disease. Okay, let's try another. Evolution is a fact. We know that it happens, no doubt. But how does it happen? Evolution by natural selection is a theory. We've come up with thousands and thousands of hypotheses about it, tested them, thrown out the bad ones, and we developed a pretty darn good framework for predicting how living things change over time. So yeah, it's a theory. Stop saying it like a bad thing. Calling it a theory means it's passed the toughest tests that we can throw at it. And evolution has been tested maybe more than any other theory we know of. We should really call it the theory of the fact of evolution.
You know that ancient humans used to believe that the Earth is the center of the universe? Looking up at the vast, calming night sky, it's so easy to think that the stars are the ones moving and the Earth is completely still.
Turns out that Plato, a 4th century mathematician, Aristotle, a 3rd century philosopher and also astronomer, and Ptolemy, a Greek astronomer who followed Aristotle and Plato, came up with our first functioning model of the universe based on apparent daily motion. And here's that model. Their model suggests that Earth is at the center of the universe and all other objects are revolving around Earth. This model is called the geocentric model. In this model, Earth is stationary and lies in the center and is not moving. All other celestial objects orbit it. When we think about apparent daily motion, that fits, that works, that makes sense. You can see how Plato, Aristotle, and Ptolemy came up with that theory from looking at the night sky. Ptolemy created a very detailed model shown here to explain how the Earth made no motion at all, was completely still, and all of the other planets and objects in our solar system were moving around it. If you watch some of the planets that are slowly circling as they orbit the Earth, this was Ptolemy's way of explaining retrograde motion, a motion that was early in the theories of the solar system and universe, but could not be understood and described. His best thinking was that all the planets were making their own tiny little orbits in their own circles as they orbited the Earth. That was the best he could do. It doesn't show the planets past Saturn because at that time they had not discovered any planets further than that. And the stars aren't pictured but also fit into the model as revolving around the Earth. Most important about this model is that Ptolemy suggested that the Earth was perfect. It was a perfect sphere. It didn't move, it didn't change, and because God created it that way, it was perfect with no imperfections. This was a widely accepted theory for about 1,000 years until Copernicus, pictured here, observed the night sky and formulated a radical view that would change society's view of the solar system. And roughly around the same time, Galileo Galilei was working with the first telescope in Italy to observe the phases of the moon. Without working together directly, both of these astronomers created a new model that went against the geocentric model. This model became known as the heliocentric model. And in this model, the sun lies in the center, and other celestial objects, including Earth, orbit it. In this model, Earth both rotates and revolves. So this was a sun-centered model of our solar system.
If the theories in astronomy try to explain how the world works through studying celestial objects, space, and the whole universe, the theory in geology, on the other hand, looks at the world through the lens of the Earth and all the processes happening on it. For this one, let's call in our dino friends to serve as an example.
This happened about 66 million years ago. The impact was as powerful as 10 billion atomic bombs, and the catastrophic global effects on the environment were even deadlier. 75% of life on Earth went extinct, including a dominant group of animals that has come to mesmerize our attention.
The diversity that we see in dinosaurs is really a reflection of how successful they were.
Meet Nat Geo explorer Diego Pol, one of the paleontologists who discovered the largest dinosaur ever.
Dinosaurs were predominant in our world for over 140 million years. Humans have been in this planet for 200,000 years, and there are not many cases in the history of our planet that one group is so predominant and so successful for such a long time.
Humans and dinosaurs didn't overlap. Not even close.
Let's go, Tyrone.
And as we've seen in Hollywood, we can be thankful for that. But dinosaur fossils left humans wondering, where'd they go?
Dinosaur extinction has been a fascinating topic for a long, long time. We see their presence up to 66 million years old, and then after that, there's nothing. They're gone.
Throughout the 20th century, there were a lot of arguments. Theories vary dramatically, from the somewhat plausible to the downright bizarre. Some pointed to out-of-control hormones or cataracts. Others blamed a world taken over by hungry caterpillars. The answers eluded experts. Until 1980, when two scientists working here discovered a clue.
The link to it being an asteroid impact started almost by accident. Walter Alvarez and his father Louis Alvarez were actually very interested in a place called Gubbio, Italy. There were limestones that were Cretaceous, and then there were limestones that were after the Cretaceous, what we call the Paleogene, and that the extinction event was right at that boundary. Instead of finding anything sort of background and normal, they actually found a spike in something called iridium. Iridium is a surprise because we have very little iridium present on the surface of the Earth versus what the asteroids are made of.
Emergence and reducibility. Emergence is like a twist in a plot, the moment where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's when we can't predict the qualities of something, even if we know everything that happened before. And this usually happens when good old reductionism, which is the idea that everything is made of simpler parts, hits a roadblock.
Reductionist methods are often based on this kind of generative atomism approach. You have a set of basic objects, and everything else is nothing but those objects arranged in different ways. Reductionist methods have been remarkably successful in the sciences, in logic, and in computer science.
In the explanation in biology, or the theory in biology, we use explanations of a kind that is quite different from what we use in physics, astronomy, and inorganic chemistry. There are some examples of purposes in biology. The first one is the bird flies in order to gather materials for building its nest. Next, this species of bird preys at night in order to escape daytime enemies. And lastly, Arctic mammals are often white, which provides them with protective coloration against the background of the snow. However, explanations in terms of purpose are no longer accepted when there is an evolutionary explanation already, such as the Darwinian struggle for existence and the survival of the fittest. So, for example, of the evolutionary explanation is the Arctic fox is not white in order to stay alive. It can't help what color it is.
This is Scott. Every day, like clockwork, he wakes up at 6 a.m. knowing for sure that the sun will shine. Today, Isko is all decked out in his jogging gear. He's made up his mind that today is the day he will finally conquer that New Year's resolution he's been dragging along for, well, too many years to count. But then, it rained. Everything happens for a reason. It can be scientific or not. It can be a law of men or law of nature. It can be explained by the theories we've learned in books or we've heard from the stories passed through generations. Regardless of the reason, we must live thinking that we're part of a bigger community, a bigger world, a bigger universe, and we have a responsibility, whether it's written or not, known to many or only some, to live knowing that all our actions can affect or influence other people, nature, or other things, or lives invisible to the naked eye.